Today is October the 10th, and it is officially World Mental Health Day. Now, this day is an annual event organised by the United Nations to help promote the importance of looking after your mental health. And every year there is a particular theme that they focus on, with this year's focus being on mental health in the workplace, which I think is super important. And I think it's something that we all need to consider a lot more. But I wanted to delay this week's podcast episode until today because I really wanted to do an episode that was going to be published on this day, diving a bit deeper into what I consider to be still very much a taboo subject. And it's interesting because my life is super synchronistic. Because yesterday I also published a video on my YouTube channel with the same kind of theme in honor of World Mental Health Day, but this time talking about how you can look after your mental health as an expat planning to move to Italy. And I was really candid in that video. I spoke very openly about my own personal struggles with mental health, as well as sharing some techniques that I think can help you if you too are struggling. And it was really interesting because I had a comment left on that video that never saw the light of day because I have since blocked this user from my channel. But the comment went something along the lines of, this video is clearly a sponsored video for BetterHelp. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I mention BetterHelp, BetterHelp is an organization that arranges counseling services for people online. And maybe because their strategy has worked very well, when people watch videos on YouTube connected to mental health, you naturally make the assumption it's going to be linked to BetterHelp because they have been involved in a lot of collaborations with fellow YouTubers, both big and small, with sponsored videos promoting their services. And so, they have made it mean that people naturally make this connection, even if their company is not mentioned. So props to them for, getting the message out there about the need for counseling services. But what really was the kind of straw that broke the camel's back, shall we say, with this particular comment, is that this comment was from a regular troll that I have had on my channel. And, I sometimes allow her comments to be posted. Sometimes I just delete them. It really depends on the context of what they're talking about. I always believe in freedom of expression as long as it generates like a healthy debate and not something that is just downright critical or offensive. And it was really interesting because reading that comment really made me reflect, because this person is a fellow YouTuber. They have their own YouTube channel. They talk about similar content to me. And it was really interesting to see this person's comment based on a video that clearly was unsponsored, because you do have to declare on YouTube if your videos are sponsored. Otherwise, you risk getting into trouble with YouTube and having your monetization rights removed. Also, it was very obvious that I was detailing my personal experiences and I was talking from the heart. It wasn't a script. In fact, I didn't script the video at all. I just spoke naturally about mental health because it's something I feel very passionate about. And yet somebody felt the need to say it was clearly a sponsored video. I find it interesting because in the video, I didn't make any mention of any companies or services. I just spoke about mental health in a very general way. Now, what it made me realize is that this person is not in a good place, because when you are in a good place, you don't feel the need to leave comments like that on other people's videos, particularly if you too are a YouTuber, because you should know, I hope, how challenging it can be to grow a channel and also the hate that you often face from so-called keyboard warriors. So why would you want to be one yourself, And so I took the decision to ban this user from my channel because twofold, really. The first, I want to save that person from being triggered by my content, because clearly there is something about my content that is triggering that person to continuously leave me troll comments. And secondly, I just didn't appreciate that comment about mental health. I was like, this person has no respect for my experiences and also doesn't understand anything of what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to remove the ability to see my channel and you don't have to, be triggered or think about what I do anymore. And it's interesting because that one action alone made me realize how there is still this huge taboo around speaking up about mental health. People jump to conclusions, people create stories based on what you say to them. And it makes people want to close up rather than speak up more about the troubles that they're facing. And I think it's also interesting because there is a lot of ignorance around mental health. There is a term that has been coined called therapy speak, which essentially relates to the many buzzwords that are often thrown about to do with mental health on social media and in everyday life. And these words were typically once just terms used in the therapy room, but now they have made it into the mainstream language. I'm talking things like red flags and boundaries and like coping mechanisms, even language that I too use when I want to talk about this kind of thing. The problem is sometimes that with that, there comes a lack of understanding of the real significance of the words that you're using. And social media can sometimes trivialize mental health. It almost becomes a trend, something that is the in thing to do at the time, but maybe isn't as genuine as you may believe it to be. And so I kind of feel being open about mental health can be a double edged sword. It can be fantastic to generate conversations, raise awareness, and make people feel like they're not going through troubles alone. But on the other hand, it can also open up this topic to be more of a trend where people jump on the bandwagon and talk about experiences that, you know, they're clearly just doing it for the views, the subscribers, or the likes. And it can make people feel like, it's not as important or significant as it should be. And so there is this aspect as well to consider with mental health. I also think that people can often mock those who are suffering from mental health conditions or who are really open about their struggles. It's not easy for somebody to admit that they've had a problem. I think this goes across the board. It's never easy for somebody to admit that they have had a problem or they're struggling with something. And when somebody does, it's not then nice to repeat that information to other people in a way that could be considered that you're mocking them. There has to be a level of respect for that person's braveness and courage to talk about how they were feeling in the first place. And also, I see people that use mental health as a card for their own personal advantage and gain. It's the pull the card out when you need a bit of, extra time or you need a change to your daily routine. You can pull the mental health card and you can have an outer in that way. It's really fascinating how mental health is used and talked about and addressed in our society nowadays. In my opinion, it is still very much a taboo. I see people here in South Italy who clearly, evidently have mental health problems, but they don't have the support system in place to look after them and to help them. And this is twofold. A lot of it boils down to money. The cost of private therapists here in Italy is expensive. And I think, secondly, there's also a lack of acceptance sometimes, especially if the person concerned is young. People don't want to accept that they may have a problem. They prefer to disguise it, cover it up, pretend it doesn't exist. And the problem just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger as the person grows up. And I've seen this. I've seen this in so many different areas of my life. I have had encounters with people here who have had mental health problems and clearly needed support, but couldn't get it. I've seen people here who, their behavior was explained away as being something completely unrelated and unconnected because people didn't want to address the fact or come to terms with the fact that maybe this person needed help. It's so interesting. And I think, there is this thing in life. When you experience something for yourself in life, you are able to see things from a totally different perspective. And you can almost peel away the superficial layers that society places on different experiences, and you can see things for what they really are. And I think this is how I feel about mental health. Because I've had my own mental health problems. I had a breakdown here in Italy in December 2019. And I kind of felt a bit of stigma at the time from people that I knew because it was really interesting. Up until that point, there were people who were very present in my life, would go out very often, and I came to think of them as friends. And then when I had this breakdown in that December, afterwards, it was me, myself, and I picking myself up. Those people were nowhere to be seen. They were very poignantly silent. And I realized then the difference between associates and friends. Like they are two very different things. And I realized that when you've experienced something like that, you definitely view the topic of mental health from a very, very different perspective. Like I was fortunate because I found a way to pick myself back up again and use that moment as a catalyst for my growth and to help me to become the woman that I'm here now. But some people are not so fortunate. And so I guess I want this episode to just be a reminder of how important it is to look after your mental health, to listen to people who are struggling, to offer support, to not be so quick to judge or to mock or to ridicule, because as I've always said, none of us are immune from having problems with our mental health at some point in our lives. We never know what life is going to serve us, and we never know how we are going to respond to that and what is going to be the trigger for our mental health. And so I think we should always be respectful around this subject because it is a very sensitive topic. It is something that we need to talk about more, because when you talk about something more, you take away, in a way, the kind of stigma attached to it. But I think as well, we need to recognize how different cultures respond to things. There are definitely more countries in the world that are open and supportive of mental health, and with organizations and charities and initiatives designed to support people who are experiencing troubles in this way. And then there are other countries where it is not viewed in the same light, and people have more of a closed-minded attitude towards looking after your mental health and what it really means. And so there is so much to unpack with this topic. I feel like I could talk about this for hours, but essentially my one message to you today on World Mental Health Day is super clear. Look after your mental health. Please don't take it for granted. Please understand that, our mental health is delicate. It's as an important part of our body as our heart is, as our lungs are. Like, our mental health, the way that we process our emotions and the way that we interact in life is vital. Like, it is fundamental. It's what makes us. It's our house. It's our home. And so please take the time to look after your mental health. If you are in a situation that is not making you happy, try to find a way to change that. If you are feeling pretty down or you're not feeling good, try to find things that are going to help you to see things from a different perspective. Try different tools and techniques that are going to help to shift you from that space to somewhere better. And if you are facing criticism or judgment, please just send love and light, because those people who are criticizing you, they too are not in the right place. And, I often think sometimes it's better to just send love and light to those people who clearly are lacking in understanding and awareness. I will see you in the next episode.